Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage, and it's about time we got started back on the 70 Torino. So follow me along through the intro, and I'll be back. So guys, long time no see for the 70 Torino on the channel. And some things have changed in the background. As you know, I've started that budget engine series, and we need the home for that little 308 that I'd bought for 65 Mustang, and then he changed his mind and wanted to build his engine. So I decided that I was going to put it in my 70 just to get it running for the car show season this summer. I figured it'd be a good way to run this motor, see how it's going to do, see how its street manners are, and I paired it with a 5-speed, a T5 5-speed, since my Torino already had a hydraulic clutch. I, however, have already done a ton of work in the background because you guys have not got through the engine series yet. So that brings me to this point. So let me flip around. I'll show you where I'm at and what I've been working on. There's been a few things leak out in a few shorts by now. So some of you know what's going on, some of you don't know what's going on. So if you're new to the channel, this is my 1974 Torino. It is a sports roof car slash a Cobra clone. This is our 308 from our budget engine build series. And as you see, my Torino has grown its power steering back and its power brakes. From where I done that video on that boy's 71 Torino, I drove it, and I was wondering, I started questioning my life choices. So those two things are back. So we got our little 308 in there. It's paired to a set of long tube headers, and I'm going to use the existing 3-inch exhaust that I had on the Cleveland. Put a mechanical fan back on it, fan shroud. I have got a Summit 600 CFM carburetor to put on it that I'm currently working on hooking things up. Hoses, belts, you know, all that stuff's hooked up. I've still got to change the throttle cable from the one I had on the Cleveland to the one out of our 70 parts car. I have just got done putting the dry shaft in it. I had to cut down a dry shaft. Y'all seen that in the shorts. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it don't. If not, I'll have to have one made. But since adding the T5 5-speed, I end up needing an oddball dry shaft length. And as you can see, our shifter's sticking through the floor there. So I'm going to have to patch our 4-speed hole up. And I got the pieces to do that here. So far everything is up. As far as I've got the brakes back up, I've got the clutch back up, it works properly. I got all the power steering stuff hooked up. It just needs fluid in it, and I have to put the drop bracket on for the headers. Even though that they do clear down there, it's real tight deal, and I don't want it to boil the power steering fluid. We got to get plug wires on this thing. We got to get our fuel pressure regulator changed from the EFI one back to my carbureted return style. We're going to be changing this -8 line to a -6 to the carburetor. But we got a bunch of stuff to cover in this video, so it's going to be pretty much update stuff. And I know a few of you are going to be like, well, where's the LT headed Cleveland? I thought you were going to put it in it. Absolutely, I was. Machine shops, guys. Currently, at the time you're probably going to see this video, the 289 for the 65 Mustang has been in the machine shop over 5 weeks at this point. Yeah, that's the point where I'm at. And to get somebody to turn a crankshaft, bore block, make sure the line home's right on it, and do the things that the 351 Cleveland bottom end needs to have done and check to make sure it's right, it's like pulling teeth, especially here in the southeast. It's hard to get anybody to do anything or in any kind of timely manner. So I am currently waiting on a machine shop to let me know that they are ready to take the LT headed Cleveland in, do a valve job on the head, surface them, take care of the block things, and you know, all that stuff. And I'm kind of waiting on monetary funds too. So maybe the two things will happen all at once. But the 351 Cleveland will make an appearance in the 66 Mustang later, our budget drag car build. I am putting my 70 Torino back, a 100% street car. I might sell everything else in the driveway and drive it every day. That's kind of where I'm at in life. I drove this car every day for a long time. I've walked past it for the past 8 months now at this point. Every single day, and just see it sitting here in the garage and just sitting here. So there was a breaking point that I can't get a machine shop to do anything. I can't get nothing going on. I want my car to drive. I want to run drive. I want to drive it. So that's where we're at. So let's see what we can get done today. So there's not going to be a whole lot of work. I'm going to bring you along for some time-lapse stuff. It'll be just kind of update things. And we'll see if we can't make this thing run this weekend. Surely at this point, you know, as small amounts of stuff as I've got left to do, we should be able to make it happen. So I will start getting the exhaust stuff out and get it ready. And we'll go from there. I know you guys can't see, but you see the mufflers are hung up under it. So I got the exhaust back under the car. The power steering drop bracket back on it, which of course it interfered with lines like they normally do. So I had to do some line bending around. Got all that stuff to clear. So power steering drop bracket's on it, exhaust is on it, dry shaft's in it. I need to work on getting the fuel system stuff straightened out and the power brake booster vacuum line hooked up to the carburetor itself. I've got the fan shroud attached on the bottom. Anytime you use a factory shroud with an aftermarket radiator, you're going to have issues and they're not going to quite fit right. So I got that addressed in the background. So we still got quite a bit of stuff to do. And I did forget, I went ahead and put power steering fluid in it while I had it jacked up. If you don't know these systems, if you jack the front of the car up and, you know, just turn the wheel side to side, that slave cylinder down there will purge any major air out of the power steering system. So just a helpful tip on Fords with the external slave. So I'm going to put you guys back on the big stand and let's get busy. Well, you guys are going to have to tell me if it opens up all the way there. So got our throttle cable on there. Had to use one of them universal robo brackets, and I put a throttle return spring on it down there. So you tell me if it opens. So we got steering action, we got throttle action. We need fuel to go into said carburetor, so we need to get swapping this regulator over, get my carbureted bypass regulator back on here. I'm going to run a, like I said before, a -6 fuel line to the carburetor instead of the 8 that's already on the car. I am going to leave the existing gigantic fuel pump and fuel lines on it for now. I will probably change that later and probably put a stock line back on it. Just depending on how this pans out. The good thing is everything I've taken off this car is going to go into the 66 Mustang. So let me put you back on the big stand. Let's get this regulator changed and this fuel line ran. And we'll go from there. So, got the fuel line sorted out. I made a little standoff bracket right here to keep this from off the water neck or contacting anything that's hot. It loops down under power steering hose and goes into our regulator outlet right there with a push lock fitting. You see our AN line still sneaked up right there, our feed and our return. So the fuel line stuff should be sorted out. I went ahead and my ignition relay right there, I went ahead and rewrapped that wire with electrical tape and ran it down through here. So we're down to some minor things at this point. We need to get these set of plug wires made. Those are going to be a custom fit type deal, so we're going to have to make those. And when I robbed the alternator off my 70 for the SVO, I took the charging cable that runs from the solenoid to the alternator with it. So I'm going to have to run back out at some point and grab a 6-gauge battery cable and run it from the alternator to the starter solenoid over there. So let's start digging into these plug wires. And these are the plug wires we're going to use right here. This is Edelbrock's 8.5mm Ultra Sparks. The good thing about Edelbrock products is they're still, you know, manufactured in the USA, unlike most other stuff. So you're going to need your universal plug wires. You're going to need one of these tools right here. These are essential for making your own plug wires. Helpful tip. This one right here, it comes from Summit. It's Summit Racing brand. These things are dirt cheap, guys, and when you got to build it yourself plug wires, you do not have to worry about the crimps on them. So, in case y'all never built it yourself set of plug wires, these things come mega long. They don't have no ends on them, so you got to put all the ends on them. And they're going to send you either the metal style for like an HEI style cap, or the late model Ford Durspark or TFI cap, or you're going to have your point style ends right here. And these are the ones we're going to use because we have a point style cap. So generally what I'll do to start this out, I'll separate these wires out by longs to shorts in our firing order. We'll dig our coil wire out here and we'll set it to the side. We'll get these stuck on the engine. I'm not going to clip them on the spark plugs, but I'm going to stick them on them so I can judge the lengths and the routing that I want. And usually what you're going to end up with, guys, this is the shortest wire right here. And if you run this like a factory point style Ford, you can see that we're super long. I mean, you could run these inside the car if you wished. So more than plenty of plug wires. And if you wanted to run passenger sides to the driver's sides and tie them in and run them inside the car, you probably could do that too. So what I'm going to do after this point, I'm just going to take one of the points boots, guys, and as I cut and make each one of these plug wires, I'll be installing them. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to route the wire how I want the wire to run, whether it's under the fuel line or on top of the fuel line. I mean, you got kind of your own thing here that you can do. However you want to route these, that's what you can do with these. So what I do, I'll come in here and I'll figure out if I just want it just a touch longer or a touch shorter, because we're going to be crimping somewhere in the area of this boot. So you want to make one cut, and I'll just take something like these wire cutters right here and I'll clip this in two. And then I'll pull this single wire off and I'll come over here at my table, and a lot of people will take some dielectric grease at this point, go ahead and put some on your wire where it slides through this boot. Go ahead and push your wire through the boot. This is where you kind of got to be patient, because you got to, it's always good to have more lube on it than not enough. It usually ends up being pretty messy. I'll lightly grab the end of it here and I'll pull this back just a little bit, about like that. And we'll take, and I'll come up about a 1/2 inch. And I'll grab a razor knife that's got tape all over it, but I'll come up about a 1/2 inch on the plug wire and just cut through. You want to make sure you don't cut through the center of it in here. I'll just run that knife around with my thumb until I get, you know, so I don't cut it through. You can cut through almost all the way through the white and stop, and you can twist it and it'll pull the end off. But anytime you make these plug wires, you don't want to do it like this. You want to fold this end over like this right here. And sometimes, if they're real wide like these are, I'll just take a pair of pliers and kind of get the shape started here so the wire stays in to our piece. And then I will take our crimp tool right here and I'll lay our wire in here. Like this right here. Towards the open side, you got the W shape in the top side of this, it's metal. And then I'll take and I'll put this stuff together like this. And I've got this little drill press vise I use here at the house. You can drop your crimping tool down in it. We'll just tighten it up right there real quick. And you have the perfect spark plug crimp that won't come loose. So at that point, we're ready to feed this up in here. And with the points caps, this is kind of a tricky thing because they end up being like this. Once you get it in there, you'll just take and bend this end over until you plug wire centered. So got one made. We just need to repeat this 8 more times. I was just finishing up our plug wires here, and there was one thing I forgot to show you guys. I have done it so much over the years just using my thumb and feel that I forgot that our Summit tool actually has, for different size plug wires right here, it actually has where you can just hold the razor blade flat on this, rotate your wire, and provide the same stripping action. Just figured I'd show you guys that. I've had mixed results doing it that way, as you can see right there. So I still prefer just taking my thumb and lightly rolling it. It always gives me the perfect strip on it every single time. And just like that, plug wires are on. So I ran them how I want them to fit and put them on there how I want them. That's the good thing about a custom fit plug wire like that. You can make them fit however you want to and route them however you want to. I went ahead and mounted the coil right there and made our coil wire. Same process as making plug wires on the coil wire. I just bolted the coil to the front of the head up there, since with all this aftermarket stuff, aftermarket 4-barrel intake, it's real hard to get a coil mounted in a factory position. Small block Fords would either been over here or over here. So I ended up just mounting up here on the front of the head, straight up and down, instead over here on the shock tower like I had our previous coil. Which brings us to, how are we going to fire this thing? I put their spark distributor in it, which, if you don't know, is about the same as an MSD distributor as far as internal workings. They use the same pickup, so they're a magnetic pickup distributor. And you have 3 wires coming out of them. An orange, a purple, and a black. The black is a ground. The black does not have to be hooked up, except in a factory application. I could have totally went down to the parts store and got a DuraSpark module mounted over here on the inner fender. It's had one on it before. And wired that DuraSpark module up to the DuraSpark distributor. But just like these plug wires, I happen to have an ignition box laying around. So since we're getting rid of the EFI stuff, I don't want any kind of monkey fooling type of mess here as far as things go. So I've got quite a few of these ignition boxes going around. floating around here at the house. Just like these plug wires, I have quite a few sets of them. So I'm going to flip around and I'll show it to you. So this is what I am going to install right here, which is Petronix, digital HP. And give you an idea, this thing is, it's not no bigger than a DuraSpark box. I've been trying to step away from kind of the aftermarket stuff on this car for reasons of issues of things, but one good upgrade you can have is a good ignition system. And this thing has some pretty decent specs. It's got an output voltage of 530 volts and up to 172 millijoules of primary spark. So that's pretty decent. And since it comes with their coil, that's recommended. And their coil has up to 45,000 volts of, firing power too. So I got the coil mounted. This thing does a bunch of stuff that I don't need it to do, like a launch control and, programmable outputs and stuff like that. So I am just going to wire this up where it just does ignition things. Disregarding all this other stuff over here. So it should be pretty simple, guys. Best I can figure, you got your distributor wires here, your hot and negative for your coil, you got a contact wire, and then a hot and negative for the battery. And fortunately, unlike MSD stuff, guys, these things, I bet this wire is like, it's touching the ground still. I'm holding it above my head. I'm like 6'1", so things are pretty long. So you got plenty of options to mount this. So I'm going to try to mount it in a place where it don't stand out like a sore thumb. Probably going to be hard. But I am going to mount it somewhere where it will stay cool and get air off the fan, or air naturally passing through the engine bay. And that's important with any kind of electronic ignition component. You want to keep it cool. That's kind of where Ford TFI modules were a big fail in their first few years. They mount that thing on the distributor, it heat soaks. It's supposed to dissipate heat through it. And over time they fail because they get hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, right? So I'm going to try to figure out where I'm mounting this thing. I have plenty of wire to mount it wherever. And we should be getting pretty close at that point. So let's get this thing mounted. Well, I got the box wired up, everything but the hot in the ground for the battery. So I get the battery in it, which I've still got to get that charge cable for the alternator to the solenoid. We're getting pretty close. So everything else is wired up. I stuck my air cleaner I had on the Cleveland on it just to see how things fit. And the reason why I use stock valve covers, I'm going to use stock breather stuff and stock PVC stuff. I wanted this thing to kind of appear, kind of OEM-ish, Since we're stepping kind of way back here, I wanted to kind of, just, get rid of all that market looking stuff. And I know a lot of you probably won't understand, like I said, why I'm doing this. But we're building a 66 Mustang. That's going to be the race car. Everything else don't have to be a race car. So I'm stepping some things back to make them more fun in the background. Like my 70 Torino here. While we built the engine for the SVO, we're going to be putting a smaller turbo and stuff on it too. Make it a little more fun to drive again. And I'm probably going to start trying to move a few of the other projects, guys. Some things you've seen built on this channel, like the mid-engine Metro. Maybe possibly Project Fretro. And probably the Green 71 Torino. I need to move some projects to make room for other stuff. So I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, or what I'm going to do, or if I'm even going to do it. But that's where I'm at the current moment. So I'm going to go ahead and dump the oil and transmission fluid in this thing. That way, when I come down here in the morning, make sure we don't have no puddles under the car. I will run by the parts store while I go check on Daisy and grab a cable for the alternator. And maybe tomorrow we'll see a little smoke out of this thing. So Stay tuned. I'll be back, guys. We'll see what happens. Alright, so it's next day. I went this morning, got me a cable. I come in here, I pulled the screwdriver out of it, I primed the engine. We should be able, real close to firing this thing off. So we'll go over some helpful tips before you fire a new engine like this. First thing you need to do is make sure you prime the oiling system. That means you're going to pull that distributor back out. You're going to find what your drive size is. There's plenty of priming tools. Summit Racing sells quite a few. Proform sells a few. Get one of those, run the oil pressure up. Because first thing you don't want this thing to hit with no oil pressure. And this is going to be super important with the flat tappet cam. You want to make sure this thing has 100% oil pressure when you go to start it. So I'll flip it around and I'll show you a few things you need to go over before you do such things. And you want to go ahead and get your timing light out and get it hooked up. You want to have the stuff to adjust the carburetor, float level, the idle mixture. You want to prime the fuel system, make sure you don't have no leaks. If you got an electric pump, that's super easy. You just turn the switch on and check for leaks. You can also set your bowl levels roughly then. One thing I do like to do, I like to take that electric choke, I'll loosen it up just a touch till it's just barely open up at the top. And we need to take, if you remember back to our last video, I said our timing, put our distributor in at 10 degrees on the balancer. So technically this thing should fire off. But I'm going to take our screwdriver here. I'm going to go ahead, since this is a new carburetor and I've never run it, I'm going to just run the idle stop screw up just a little bit right there. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to check our air mixture screws and to see where they're at. I'll run them out 1.5 turns on each side. And then we should be ready to put power to the ignition and see what happens. And if everything goes well, guys, I got our ignition hooked up, got our timing light over there. This thing should, for all intents and purposes, start. And we got a noise in the top end. I think maybe the rocker arms are hitting the baffles and the valve cover. You got to remember these pedestals are quite a bit taller as far as construction than the old style rocker arms that these valve covers would have come on. So I'm going to pull one of them off, see if there's any witness marks on it, and we'll go from there. Alright, you can see that little shiny spot right there, where that baffle dips down, right there. Have that on both sides. I went ahead and took a hammer to the passenger side. Just beat it up a little bit and make sure it's clear. Well, the other options is to put a thicker set of valve cover gaskets on it. Unfortunately, with the stock bolts, you're not getting too much longer of a valve cover gasket. You know, longer, taller of a valve cover gasket on there. So I'm going to give it a little tappy tap. We're going to put these things back on here and we're going to see what it sounds like. So let me get that taken care of and I'll be back. Well, it's another day and I've been down here tinkering around. Took a little bit more off the pedestals on the rockers on it. Got them all quietened down. There's going to have to be something done there fairly soon. I'll probably put a set of aftermarket rocker arms on it. I guess some of them are just worn more than others. Got the air cleaner on it. Got my dash pad back in it. I made a shifter stick. It may be just a touch tall, but it'll work. So I still got a patched 4-speed hole in the floor, and reattach my shifter boot down there. But I dumped 5 gallons of lawnmower gas in it. 87 ethanol stuff. It instantly changed the way it runs, which is kind of funny. If anybody don't know, when I had the Cleveland in here, it had about 10 gallons of 110 in it. And the rest of it was mixed with 93, and then it sat here in the garage for 8 months. So the fuel's a little skunky, so to say. So I started up and let it run while I was pouring fuel in it. And I immediately had to come up here and adjust the carburetor and richen it up. Just from the fuel difference. So I think at this point I'm ready to put the grill back in it. I don't think there's going to be any chance of breaking it at this point. And when you get the hood on it, that'll probably be in another video. And when you get this thing out of the garage and get it cleaned up and take it for a ride. So still a lot of stuff to do. Still got to change the oil in it again, but I want to drive it a little bit, make sure everything's okay. I did use a break-in oil in it. I don't know if I covered that earlier in this video or not. Even though it's a roller camshaft, even though it's been run before, a break-in oil is still beneficial to help break in your piston rings. So if all I used it for was that, that's what I used it for. So it's got break-in oil in it too. So the oil's going to have to be changed. It's got water in it, not antifreeze. That's going to have to be drained. There's several things that are going to have to be addressed over an amount of time. Well, the grill's back in, and if anybody remembers, everybody said that grill, after I plastic welded and fixed it, would never hold up. To this day, I've had it out about 10 times, and you can not even tell where I've ever fixed it. So, So guys, that's probably where I'm going to leave this video off. At least until, you know, we can get this thing out and drive it and, you know, get the rest of the pieces back on it and things. There's still plenty of stuff to do in the background. So I'm going to address some of that. It'll probably be in our next video. So if you haven't yet, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, because it does help me bring you more content like this right here. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to everybody's comments down below. So until next video, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.